All right, CNT120, Chapter 4 Lab. We're on to Part 3. We're now going to look at UDP. I know it says DNS and UDP here, but we're really going to be looking at UDP. Now, hopefully you remember from your reading, TCP and UDP operate at the transport layer, layer 4. TCP gets used when I want to make sure something gets delivered reliably, like loading an entire web page, or downloading an entire email, or downloading an entire file. TCP is going to get used to make sure everything gets numbered, everything gets labeled, everything gets delivered, everything gets accounted for. So when I need something reliably, multiple pieces of something reliably transferred, something like TCP is going to get used. Well, to do that reliable, it's going to add some overhead. It's going to take some time to do it. So things at layer 4 that need to get sent quickly are going to use UDP. UDP puts just enough addressing on it, says, good luck, get there, have a good trip. Almost like sending a postcard. You put just enough addressing on to send it, and you put just enough of a message on of like, hey, I'm having a great time, but I miss you, can't wait to see you, blah, blah, blah. UDP will get used for things like DNS or DHCP, which needs a fast or speedy response. There's not much information, but it needs to get there quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for some DNS traffic, because that'll allow us to see the UDP header. That's what we're going to end up doing. So for this part of the lab, if you had a Wireshark open, go ahead and close that. We're going to do a new Wireshark session. I don't need my virtual machine for this half, so I'm just going to kind of minimize him and put him away. I'm going to put my text file. I'm just going to minimize my text file. I'll minimize my command prompt as well. I'm going to start a new Wireshark session, and I'm going to go to a website I have not been to today. I'm going to load a website I have not been to today. That way we're sure that we're going to get a DNS query. So I'm going to try here. I'm going to get my Wireshark on. I'm going to capture my Ethernet 3. I'm going to load my browser. I don't think I had my browser open yet today, so there's my browser. We're going to... There we go. We're loading Firefox. And I'm going to try to go to Formula One website. I have not loaded the Formula One website today. So Formula1.com. I'm going to try to load that. And hopefully that generated the DNS I'm looking for. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click stop. And we have lots of packets over here now. So I'm going to scroll up here, and I'm going to apply a filter for DNS. Okay, I'm going to apply a filter for DNS, and hit the enter key. And hopefully, in here, I'm going to look for that Formula 1 to show up over here in kind of the info area. So I'm going to carefully scroll down through, and I'm going to try to look for Formula 1 to be showing up. There's Google, there's YouTube. I'm kind of scanning across. Alright, it's not showing that way. So let me make it a little bit bigger. There's Amazon. There's Hack, loading the Hack website. So let me scroll up a little bit here. And I might end up just using the Hack website there. So let's do, I'm not seeing this. This happens when you start loading websites like HTTPS. Sometimes this happens. It's here. It just gets buried and it's hard to find. So I might just use, and that's okay if you do the same thing. Let's see what this is here real quick. Let's see what this one is as well. Nope. Okay, so I think I'm going to come down here. I'm going to use the Hack one because that's something that was kind of running on the side over there. And that's fine. That's all right. I'm going to use the Hack one. You could do that as well. If you don't get what you're looking for, you can start a new capture, come out here and load, like the Hack homepage or whatever. That's fine as well. All right. I'm just going to use this Hack capture for my example. And that should work for what we're doing, and you're welcome to do that kind of thing too. So right here I have a query of Hack. Again, that's a service that was kind of running in the background, loading the web page, something over one of these extra tabs that were here, kind of like this down here or this over here was running in the background. Okay. So I'm going to use that query here, and as it tells you in the lab, I'm going to right click on top of that and follow the UDP stream. So I'll right click on top and I'll do follow UDP stream. And what that does is, this is the little filter box. I'm just going to close that. I don't need him open. But this now filters everything else. So I'm looking at the query to hack and the response for hack. So the query is like, hey, what's the IP address for hack.edu? And the response here is like, hey, here's the address for hack.edu. Well, that's what we want to see, because DNS is going to use, as we see, is going to use UDP. So we're going to take a look in here. Here's our query. Here's our response. We want to look at the UDP header. So in my query, if I highlight the query in the middle window here, I see Ethernet IP UDP. I'm going to open up the UDP header, and I'll see source port, destination port. All right, source port, this is coming from my browser. When I see high port numbers like that, those are dynamic port numbers. That's coming from my browser. The destination port 53, well, that is the port number for DNS. That makes perfect sense. And those are and I have length and I have checksum. And that's pretty much it. There's not much here, as opposed to TCP, which we'll look at in a few minutes. So right here is my source port, destination port, etc. That is my header fields for UDP. And if I look at the next UDP, I'll see they reverse. This is coming from the DNS server coming back to my browser. So that's the response coming back. And in here, the response, if I look, here was the query, here's the response, like, hey, here's the addresses for this hack.edu that you're looking for. Okay, so in here, we want to copy the source and destination ports and put them into my text file. So we'll look at we can do the response, that's fine. And I'm going to let's try this again. Let's try the whole copy. Ooh, let's do visible. Let's highlight these two. And we'll do copy all visible items. And then I'll come over to my text file here, and I'll put a note that we are now in part 3 of our lab with UDP. So I'll do part 3 UDP header, and I'm going to paste that in, and I will get rid of all this extra stuff up here, and I'm just going to leave those right there. There's my UDP header, and there's my UDP header fields. That's perfect. That's wonderful. And I will save that. So now we know we looked at the UDP header and the UDP header fields that we saw in our reading. We'll come back in the next one and look at TCP. I'm going to try to leave this Wireshark handy so I have this for the next part.